What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Spinauer and Theo Ash, here to give you our top 10 offenses in the NFL as we are very, very close to week one of the NFL season. But before we get into that, I owe Theo Ash an apology because I forgot his birthday this year.
Oh, it's okay.
No, it's not okay, dude. You should punch me in the face and you should turn my lights red and you should just, I don't know. I realized, I don't even remember how I realized, but I was like, Theo's birthday was Saturday and we didn't talk about it on last episode. We didn't talk about it at all. So happy late birthday, Theo. How was your birthday?
Very pleasant, very pleasant. My sister was in town and we did all kinds of fun things together. We were at the Packer-Bronco preseason game for one. That was fun. I did a video a while back where I ID'd a Kestrel on the All-22 footage from the Packers-Broncos game the last time the Packers were in town. And there was a bird that just swooped in the corner of the All-22 after a touchdown. And I could tell it wasn't a pigeon. And I can tell it was a Kestrel because it had that falcon shape. I think even you don't need to know that much about birds to kind of know what the falcon silhouette is, like diving from the air, all wings bent, looking dynamic. So I knew what it was and did a video about it. One thing that really tilted me was posting that on Instagram. There was somebody in the comments that was really vehemently disagreeing. He's like, there's just no way a Kestrel would live in a city like that. Like, he was really getting into it with people. And then he was like, this is what's wrong with society today. People just can't admit that they're wrong. And he's the one who's wrong. Like, I got pictures from people at that game of the bird, like, on the field goal post. And clearly it's a Kestrel. And he's just like, no, you'd never see one in a city. And then someone said, like, I live in Chicago and I've seen like 3 Kestrels just around my neighborhood. And he's like, oh, 3. Oh, 3. Okay.
Well, where is the Broncos stadium?
Denver.
Couldn't have said it better. I was trying to think of how I could give you directions. It's in Denver. It's kind of in between Denver and Golden. Like downtown Denver proper kind of ends, and then it gets kind of warehousey and not very residential. And that goes on for, it's kind of in that zone in between Denver and Golden where things aren't very residential. So
he could be right that like you wouldn't see one in the city and the stadium just isn't in the city.
The next day after I had been reading this, I was in my apartment, which is in downtown Denver, and I heard a Kestrel outside my window. So you could see a Kestrel in the city. You could absolutely see a Kestrel in the city. But anyway, I was at the preseason game with my sister, and there were 3 of them flying around the stadium. I saw them in the flesh, in person. They live literally like under the concourses, and they come out and they catch bugs that the stadium light attracts. They literally live in there. I felt like I was seeing a celebrity. And I thought of that guy who was really making me mad, being like, oh, it's a peregrine falcon. It's obviously a peregrine falcon. That's the falcon that lives in cities. Like,
obviously.
Watcher beef, man. It's not a for fun hobby, dude. It's not games. It's not about appreciating the animals. It's about
being right
and attack. The bird watcher community is actually really toxic, is what I mean to get at.
That would be an interesting. What is the most toxic hobby community?
It's not birding. I can tell you that. Maybe there's a little bit of toxicity if you're really competitive around it. But
street racing, maybe.
Yeah. The drugs community, maybe.
The drugs community, for sure.
Maybe even football.
Yeah, the prison gang community is
prison gang community is top 10 most violent, most toxic hobby communities. Yes.
Yeah, the Shiv community. Shiv community.
Yes.
You guys care about the Pro Bowl? No more Pro Bowl? They're officially done with it. Did you see this?
Oh, is that confirmed?
Mm-hmm. They're done with it.
Oh, wow. So Shador really was the straw that broke the camel's back, huh?
I mean, it's been a couple of years. It's been for a long time, honestly. There have been like nonsense quarterbacks getting in, but the game itself is just stunk. I mean, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't. I mean, and I bless their heart for trying. I don't blame them, but like, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense in the modern NFL and the sort of sports landscape that we've got. Even basketball, which isn't as, it's not football. Even basketball is having a hard time. So what does that tell you?
I don't want Jordan Love to get hit and get hurt during the Pro Bowl.
Right.
So I don't want Jordan Love to want to go and get hit during the Pro Bowl. I won't miss the game. I won't miss it.
And they'll do like these mini games or whatever, and I appreciate trying to work around the we can't actually play football limitation, but I'm not actually going to sit down and watch even Pro Bowl, like even high level NFL plays. I'm just not interested in it. Only so many hours in the day, unfortunately. So
the concept I think is the concept is cool still, of like, oh, let's get all the best players together on one field and have them square off. But the reality is you just can't incentivize that on a high enough level for it to actually work.
Right.
Yeah, that worked when it was 22 good old boys who were doing it for nothing but the love of the game before the Super Bowl was even a thing. Then it worked perfectly. It was probably awesome.
Yeah. It worked when NFL salaries weren't $50 million.
It worked when there wasn't a combined $1 billion of assets on the field, like trying to kill each other. It just doesn't work, which is fine. I've got other things to do with my Sunday or Saturday than to watch dudes play dodgeball or chess or checkers or 2K or whatever it is that they're doing now. So I mean, it's you could make some statement about like, how money is in the game now and it's not about passion or something like that. And you'd be right, but it's also about passion and money, both, I think. Yeah. Every other Sunday for other.
And I think
I have my fill of football. I really do. Like
would you rather the NFL players be passionate about the game of football in general or be passionate about their team?
People are just going to whine about that type of stuff regardless, though, because all it would take is one guy getting injured where it's like he's not thinking about his team. He was just trying to get this, cash reward or whatever it is. And then they'd be mad in that sense. So there's no winning with that stuff if you're a player, and they shouldn't get themselves injured playing a real football game that doesn't actually count for anything.
Here's my question. Are they still doing 2 weeks between the conference championship and the Super Bowl?
I'm sure, yeah.
Okay, so we're still never getting.
That was
birthday.
That wasn't dependent on the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, it was.
You want the Super Bowl and your birthday to still be.
I was hoping to get the once every 7 years Super Bowl on my birthday back, but no, that's over.
What was I going to say? Oh, the new jerseys. Any thoughts on the new jerseys? Any favorites? Any stinkers? Any thoughts?
I have to go glance at them again. I didn't think the Packers ones were that good, bro.
They're fine.
I said this is mid-burger. I think the Bears ones, I thought the orange helmet was too much. Mm-hmm. I think I like the Titans one. Hold on, let me go look at the new NFL jerseys real quick.
Yeah. I mean, Theo, I liked the Packers ones a decent amount. I thought the numbers were an interesting.
They are good. The numbers are cool. The font is cool. I'm an Alabaster fan. All right, I've thought off-white and cream should be more, represented in football kits for a while now, and I'm glad it's finally going in that direction. And I saw a side-by-side of the all-white Packers uniforms from the last couple years next to these. And I just think the colors and the details really pop compared to what I was complaining about a few episodes ago, which is usually teams just go like icy white or all black and it all starts to look the same. The Packers already had the icy whites and I appreciated that they etched some gold, like detailing into the numbers, the new color scheme a little bit. I'm not a big fan of the GB patch. That could probably go, but I think it looks pretty cool. It's got a good vintage kind of maximalist look that people are really going for right now. And I looked at it and I was like, that's pretty nice. That's, if I were to be in charge of designing something, I probably would have thought about something like that. I don't think I could have executed it because I'm not a designer, but it had elements that I enjoyed. So I was happy with it. I thought about getting one because I thought I really like these, but they're just not worth it out of the box, new money, you know.
How much are these jerseys, Theo?
Oh, I'm sure they're $140 like every jersey new is.
Oh, okay. I thought they'd be like more or something.
Maybe they are. I didn't even check. I looked on the website and the fan gear, and I was going through them all, but I didn't even click on one to see the full price because I'm like, I just know I'm not gonna like what I see here.
I like the Titans ones. Those are really sharp.
Yes. Yeah, I think the Titans are cool. I think the Rams all white look is going to be sick. Theo, I know you hate all white, but I think it's going to be cool.
Those Bills jerseys are among the worst ever, though. As I look at NFL jerseys, they're really.
Let's not lose sight of the forest through the trees here.
And the Colts ones I don't love either.
Gray. I don't like that
I'm just being hateful right now, though.
I don't like that the Texans and the Titans are in this like war about who gets the Oilers. Like the Titans' new primary uniforms are clearly inspired by the Oilers, the color scheme. They've now completely changed their color scheme to Oilers colors in the trim. And then, of course, when the Oilers were a franchise, they were in Houston, and then they moved to Tennessee to become the Titans. Yeah. So Houston feels like they get the Oilers too. And now their rivalry jerseys has the exact same color scheme and kind of the same trim. And I wonder if they'll be playing the Titans because it's the rivalry series, right? The Packers play the Bears. Maybe I guess I haven't checked. Do the Titans play Houston in the Oilers Bowl? I don't know. I hope not, because that would, I think, get confusing. They just got to figure this out. They have to figure this issue out. Maybe whoever wins the series this year gets to be the Oilers. So
I feel like it should be Houston's because they were the Houston Oilers. I think if you're going to move, you don't get to take the history with you, kind of like a Browns-Ravens situation, but I don't really care.
Hasn't happened to your team, so it doesn't affect you.
Yeah, you're folding the old team and starting the new team.
Yeah, I guess. That's my thought too. Same with like Seattle, and that was a whole big war in the Supersonics. So
yeah, fair enough. Top 10 offenses in the NFL.
Let's do it.
Starting from 1, working our way down to 10. I'll tell you, there are a handful of offenses that I look at, you know, whether it be the Rams, the Ravens, Patriots, Bills, Lions, Cowboys, whoever you want to throw in there, Bengals, that you're like, they could be the best offense in football, right? But I think the only one that stands out is like, this is pretty much guaranteed to be one of the best top 5, top 3 offenses in football, unless something disastrous happens, is the Rams. And so I've ended up slotting them at number 1. I figure we can work number 1, work from 1 down to 10, and then throw some honorable mentions in there if we want. To me, the Rams stick out as like great offensive line, great run game, great quarterback, great receivers. It's just every aspect of this offense is stacked, and they have a great offensive play caller. There's just no flaw in this offense. And so the only thing that we point to is like, well, what could derail this season for the Rams? We talked about it in our NFC West preview, is Stafford getting hurt, right? Or taking a step back due to age in some capacity. That's the only thing that really stands out for the Rams for me is like any sort of potential pitfall. Otherwise, this is the best offense in the NFL, I think.
They're a little thinner than even Stafford. Like the receivers, Puka's always a little banged up, but he's mostly played, but he's always a little banged up. Adams has the hamstring thing. It's not the end of the world at receiver because they run so much 13 that they don't need like a ton of depth, or they probably run, 3 receivers out there as few times as anybody. But then like the offensive line too doesn't have crazy depth. So if you're going to point to something and say like what could go wrong, you don't just have to look at Stafford. You could look at a lot of other pieces here. I also think, your quarterback is the most important piece here. I like Stafford, but I don't think he was great under pressure last season. Whereas I think some of these other offenses have guys who can sort of make something happen no matter how bad things get. Like May was super good. Mahomes has been really good in that regard. You know, Allen, Lamar when he's 100%, not last year, but when he's 100%. So, I mean, I think they're number one, too. They were first in DVOA by rushing and passing last year. The gap between number one and number two in offensive DVOA is bigger than the gap between 2 and 13. So
Yeah.
it wasn't even really close. And they're basically bringing back an identical offense, essentially. They bring in Max Clare, so they've got a super, super loaded tight end room. You know they're going to get them out on the field a ton. We'll see how Ferguson takes a step in year 2. I know they're hyping him up a lot right now in camp, and he's got the potential to be a more explosive receiving threat than maybe some of the other guys. Claire, that is a super smooth mover, not like a huge Claire guy. And also, I just think in general, well, I can't say this anymore after last year, but that sometimes tight ends can take a little time to come along or whatnot, especially in this room. It feels like it could take a little time to come along, but who knows? Who knows? He was really productive at Purdue and at Ohio State. I think it was just a bad offensive environment for like putting up, big statistical seasons. So yeah, I have the Rams at 1. I don't think anybody would complain about that.
Rams at 1 for me as well. They've built such a great shell, I think is the word I've landed on to describe it, around Matthew Stafford. It just, not only do they have the MVP and the potential offensive player of the year in Puka Nacua, they have an environment around him where they can really lean on the run game and just totally mash you. I think the secret weapons here are their guards, Kevin Dotson and Steve Avila. Just wide, powerful guys who can move you in a straight line downhill. And, that's what they do. Like you said, Matt, they're in 13 personnel with 3 tight ends. Over 300, I could tell you, 336 times last year.
Over 30% of their snaps were in 13, and it's something that they started doing more during the season. That's more than twice the rate of the next closest team. Like, it's not even
Steelers were
remotely
the next
close.
closest team, and they had 100 and
they were at like 14%.
116 snaps or something like that. Just 75. They were at 75 rushing, 72 passing, I believe, is what I wrote down. And what all those big bodies do is just allow the Rams to just run it straight downhill. Those guards and all those tight ends, they have such a great run game. When they handed it off to a running back, they had the highest success rate in the league, kind of in a class of their own. The Bills were next, way over 50%. It's shocking how even every split ends up getting in the NFL. That's something that always stands out to me. Like, everything ends up hovering around 50%. They're at like a 55+% success rate running the football. It's that little margin positively is pretty ridiculous. It's pretty ridiculous that, you can be over 50%. Like a 4-yard run on first down is not successful, but that's how most runs kind of go. So
Yeah.
the fact that they're able to just kind of get in that mode and just mash you behind those guards. And then, like you said, Claire and Ferguson are these downfield threats. Parkinson is more of a blocker, but also was useful for them as a receiver last year until the NFC Championship game when he dropped that big pass. But yeah, they just got the personnel to live in 2 very different worlds. Like, if it's 3rd and 10, or if you're down. If you're them and you're down 20 points, like, you still feel like you've got the quarterback and the weapons to bring you back into the game. But if they're up by 10, they can just salt you away like basically nobody else in the league can do. So coach, run game, pass game, it's all getting pretty close to number 1 for the Rams. They're the best offense in the league, and I think it's pretty clear. It's got to be a hot take to say something else almost.
It would be a hot take. I was trying to think, will I pick anyone else? Is there anyone else that I could pick?
I mean, they're not like a guarantee to be number 1 because so much can happen, but like no team would be. And it's just really hard to come up with an argument against them when it feels like they're strong everywhere. All of their key pieces are really good. I think McVay is so good. I think Puka is so good. obviously, I guess I'm lower on Stafford than consensus, but he really is great as a distributor, of course. So there's just too much here that's positive, and then nothing has changed. So you have to really, really believe in somebody else in a way that I guess I just don't. There'd have to be a team with like a top. There'd have to be like the Bills or the Ravens or the Chiefs or like one of those teams have like the best run game as well and great receivers, and none of them do. All of them, I think, are kind of questionable in their supporting cast around those top quarterbacks. So
Yeah, all of them are kind of questionable. Even the Patriots, who were one of the top offenses last year, and they did get better with the additions of Brown and Dobbs. You still have questions about their offensive line. You still have questions about their run game. And so it does kind of knock them down the list a little bit in a way where you just don't have those questions about the Rams at all. But I will say the Patriots were not my number 2 team. They were my number 3 behind the Baltimore Ravens, who I think are being a little bit underrated right now, right? With, Lamar and his injury last year. I think they're going to come out and be pretty great running the ball again. Derrick Henry was really good down the stretch, and adding Lamar into that mix, they're going to be able, even if the receivers aren't crazy, that Lamar is going to be able to find ways to access weird angles. He's a much better, one of the best, throw off platform, throw from weird angle guys. Him and Stafford are kind of similar in that way, except Lamar can contort his body and move with his legs better, obviously. So like Lamar, Derrick Henry could be the best rushing attack in football. And then if you can get a decent passing attack, maybe it's not 4,000 yards, but it can still be good enough to make them one of the top.
Well, they don't pass at a high volume.
They don't pass
I
at a
wouldn't
whole
hold
volume.
the yardage total through the air against them. They're usually very, very efficient when Lamar is healthy and playing the full season. It's tough. I had them just outside my top 10. I think it's just Lamar there, and I'm really not super confident in anything else.
Wow.
Do you like their pass catchers? I'm sorry. I'm not like betting on Elijah Surratt to be. I guess it's Lane now. Surratt's not even the guy anymore. So we'll see about Lane, but like their pass catchers are weak. Their offensive line, I think, is super spotty and just lost its best player. Henry is another year older and kind of showed signs of slowing down last season, even if he did end up with a ton of total yards by the end of the year. And Lamar, for what it's worth, like it's all him, but he is coming off a weird injured year and he's kind of consistently banged up. I think there's a ton of really good offenses up here, and I don't really feel like I'm betting against the Ravens that much. Again, they're my pick out of the AFC.
Yeah.
But that's partially because I think, their defense is going to be really good too. And the reality is you'll make your top 10 and 3 quarterbacks will miss time and the next 3 teams will end up top 10 statistically or something like that. So the Ravens could very well be that team, but I just think they're too reliant on Lamar to kind of be everything here. And he can be. I don't really doubt that he can be when he's 100% and if he gets back to how he was in 2024. Obviously, I don't doubt it that much. But I think there's a lot of good quarterbacks or a lot of ecosystems where it's like, who are you going to bet against? Because I don't think I have anybody above them that's not like either a high-end quarterback in a noticeably better situation who very recently has put up better stats, or like elite play callers, which I don't think we know that Baltimore has either. So, I mean, we'll get to it, and maybe I'll change my mind by the end of the episode. But
maybe
I think it's just Lamar for me. And there's, I mean, I like Flowers all right, and Henry I know is the ageless wonder, but I also think there's a level of we've just kind of ignored maybe that Henry looked bad for part of last season, and I wouldn't give that pass to a running back who wasn't 33. You know what I mean? I wouldn't give that pass to anybody but Henry. It is going to happen eventually. I know we say that every year, but eventually we're going to be right. And I feel like he's one of the very top selling points of this offense because it's not the offensive line. even though I really like Vega, and that does help them out here a decent amount. I think he could step in and be good right away. But yeah, I just think they're super thin.
I think that's fair. I mean, you're right. I don't love a lot of their pass catching weapons, but I feel like I've never liked a lot of their pass catching weapons in years past. And, 2023, he was the MVP of the league. 2024, you can argue he should have been the MVP of the league, and their offense was super, super efficient then. And I just think that if Lamar is healthy, their offense is going to be, top 2, top 3 in the NFL, right? And so a lot of that is betting on Lamar. And I think you're right to say that they do lean on Lamar maybe too much. That could be a very real possibility that comes back to bite them and that he gets hurt again, or that maybe it's too much and they just like defenses are ready for it, right? But I just have faith in Lamar above all else with the exception of last season. He's proved that he is that guy.
I think that there's more to this too than just being like a team that's going to finish high in EPA. I would want an offense that has threats outside of just my quarterback, and I think it's the biggest flaw that the Ravens have for sure, is that it's too much just Lamar. And yeah, he's injury prone and he's getting older. And he does a lot of his value, or not his. I don't want to make it out like I'm betting against Lamar, but it's like, a lot of the value here is that Lamar is this great runner, right? And that's how he can create this excellent running game out of environments that are not always perfect. As he gets older, I don't necessarily think he's done again, but I am, watching and saying, like, is the rushing rate going to tick down as you turn 30? I would expect it to, honestly. And if it did, I think Lamar would still be great, but it might be a little bit harder. Also, for somebody who is super high on Linderbaum, I feel like
I am nervous about.
You don't seem to care at all that Linderbaum is gone. Like, it seems to make zero difference to you.
Well, they just had an injury at center too today. And so that's a little concerning how thin they're getting at that position. The Linderbaum loss could end up being really bad. And we saw last year just how bad Falele was, and how much that created a poor ecosystem for this offense, and the number of times where Lamar wasn't able to step up into pockets that normally he wants to slide up in because there's just a guy in the B gap waiting for him. So it is something that you're right, I'm probably not considering nearly enough. And I'm sort of just banking on like, well, Vega will be an upgrade over Falele, but then I'm not accounting for the fact that they're losing, maybe the best center in football, especially with the way they want to run the ball.
I think Derrick Henry's still a pretty big deal, and the fact that they have him, just going through some of the explosive statistics and the make you miss statistics that you'd expect to really fall off if he was looking 32 years old and washed. I mean, he was third in 20-mile-an-hour runs last year. He was third in runs of 10 plus yards. He was fourth in yards after contact. He was second in yards after contact, and he was 12th out of 49 qualified backs in EPA per attempt. And this was without Lamar Jackson for a large portion of the year, facing more stacked boxes than anybody in football outside of Quinshon Judkins in Cleveland. So he's, to me, still a top 5 back in football. That's the way he played last year. The way that he began the season with the fumbles made it maybe not what we've seen from him, in the past, definitely not in 2024. But he's finished second in rushing yards, I think, like at least 2 years in a row, maybe going on before that. Like, if we're going to bet on anybody in this league to have a rushing title and double-digit touchdowns next year, the guys I'm betting to do that, Derrick Henry's in the top 5. And I think you're right, Blaiden, that, yeah, the weapons are not great for Lamar Jackson, but they never have been great. They never have made a move for an A.J. Brown or anything like that. Now, maybe as Lamar gets older, that move becomes more imperative that you make it. That I can get down with. I do worry about some of the ways Lamar Jackson looked last season. Like, he came back from that injury and had so many turnovers versus the Bengals on Christmas, right? Including one where he just kind of ran out of the back of the pocket and then fumbled, got hit, and it popped into the air. Like, that ended up being the beginning of an avalanche of turnovers that lost them that game. And then the next game they played Pittsburgh, and he made some really ill-advised passes and lost that game. I mean, everybody was expecting the Ravens to kind of just come back and charge into the division lead. It didn't happen that way. So I'm a little bit worried about perhaps some slippage from Lamar. I mean, he's been banged up so many times and is reliant on the mobility in ways that is unique in NFL history. But he was also banged up last year, and I could see it maybe not being where it was at in 2019 or 2024, but still being, you know, a top 3 quarterback. My 2 through 4 teams here, it is the Three Musketeers rooms. The Three Musketeer AFC quarterbacks and backfields generally. I've got the Bills at 2, I've got Kansas City at 3, and I've got Baltimore at 4. And the things all those teams have is just a all-time Hall of Fame quarterback combined with a running back who can do some special things and, you know, mess with the box and make it static one high shells. And then the quarterback can take advantage of those one-on-one opportunities on the outside, even if the wide receivers aren't elite. I just think that those 3 offenses with those 3 quarterbacks in the AFC are there every year in that elite range. And I just kind of expect all 3 of them to continue to be. With the way Lamar looked last year, I do have the Ravens as the bottom of that tier, but still think he's a quarterback who can really elevate you, along with Derrick Henry, along with an offensive line that I don't think is terrible, even missing Linderbaum.
Yeah. I will say for Buffalo, we've kind of we've kind of been going back and forth on how we feel about them a little bit this offseason. And I have them at 4, but they are the second of that trio of Baltimore, Buffalo, and Kansas City. And I'll say right now I have Kansas City at 9 on my list. But I feel like I'm just lower on Kansas City than you guys are maybe coming into this season. Buffalo is interesting because Buffalo might be in the same boat that Baltimore is, where it could just be all Allen. The only thing is, like, well, they added DJ Moore, but I don't know if I'm really moved by that in the same way that a lot of people seem to be. And so I do have them below Baltimore just because I think that the Ravens have consistently produced this like elite run game when Lamar is healthy. And you can say the same for the Bills with Allen, right? And James Cook has been really, really special. But I do also kind of worry about the receivers in Buffalo, maybe to the same extent. And I think Buffalo.
I would certainly ask what Baltimore has on Buffalo offensively. If you're that much higher on Lamar than Allen, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But the Bills rushing game, I would take. Really? Oh yeah. I think the Bills rushing game was probably number 2 last year. In fact, it was
yeah. I'd say it was. It's them and the Rams, I think, together, who are really able to get heavy, get big, run straight downhill with these duo concepts and just kill you. On all those stats that the Rams popped in, the Bills were number 2 or number 1. If you're looking at EPA and explosiveness, you'd start to see the Bills take the lead. If you're looking at just constant success rate and that metronome of not taking negative plays, then the Rams were a little bit better. But I think the Bills were a little bit better at popping off big runs than the Rams were even.
And honestly, I would wonder what exactly it is that the Ravens are like so much better at offensively than the Chiefs, because I feel pretty good about the Chiefs' offensive line. I feel better about the Chiefs' offensive line than I do about Baltimore's. I think their run game is going to be really good. I don't think there's even if you like Henry a lot and maybe I'm too low on him, I thought the stats you brought up were good, Theo. Like, I still like Kenneth Walker a ton.
Yeah.
Right. And I still think their run game could be every bit as good. And I think Mahomes is my number one quarterback. And yeah, he's coming off an injury, but honestly, Lamar concerns me a little bit more because of the consistency that he's been hurt and the fact that he came back and didn't look like himself. Like, I had him at 3 in my quarterback rank for that reason. Right. Now, I'm worried about the outside winners with Kansas City. I don't have them at 3. I have Buffalo at 2. But I don't have Kansas City at 3, even though I, value Mahomes and how good he was under pressure last year and all of that stuff a ton. But yeah, I just have a hard time with Baltimore when I feel like everything relies on one guy and who is great and absolutely can get them in the top right corner of just about any graph you can think of, but is a little questionable. And also, maybe that's not how you want the offense to be built out come playoff time. Maybe I would take an offense that has multiple guys that can beat you rather than it all being on one dude's shoulder. Because I feel like for as much as again, I picked the Ravens, are we going to get to the playoffs? And it's going to be like, Lamar save us offensively, and it's Zay Flowers and Lane or Surratt is just not ready for the moment or something. Like, it just feels like it's very possible, and we've seen it before. So,
yeah, I haven't really thought of that through the lens of, well, if I were building out, and I guess I maybe held the Rams to the standards, like, oh yeah, they're just like perfectly constructed in every way.
If you were picking an offense to have next year, I don't think you would go Baltimore number 2. I really don't. I don't honestly. I don't think that you would go top 5. I really think.
You know what I've really been teasing, but I don't know if I have the balls to do it because they didn't finish that high last year. Is Dallas? Dallas is one where let's talk about, because I really did think about putting Dallas so much higher because of this exact reason where I'm like, dude, they've got a kick-ass quarterback who is great under pressure, great from the pocket, can get the ball out quickly, has great velocity on his arm, is precise, one of the most accurate pocket passers in the NFL, and he's got 2 sick-ass wide receivers, maybe the best wide receiving duo in football, Matt. We've talked about this, debating them versus Cincinnati. I like Pickens and Lamb is as good as it gets, really, truly. And they've also been like pretty solid running the ball last year. Like they have a good offensive line. That is an offense that is really, really well built out, but they kind of had a lot of these pieces last year and it wasn't that productive.
If you get, I think Flanoy is going to get a little bit more burn than he did last year, who I think is really good. And I think CD could just not have such a bad run of luck overall with like the Bizarro drops and then the injury stuff and then the Yak ability being taken away. Whether or not they're a better duo than Chase or Higgins, honestly, just doesn't really matter that much to me. To be honest with you, it's 1 and 2. So regardless, I just think they're incredibly well built out. They can seriously run the ball. I think that you've got to match up with how much strength they have on the inside of that offensive line. And they've got a lot of dudes who can beat man, dudes who can take the top off, dudes who can beat you after the catch. I don't know. I feel like they're incredibly well-rounded, and I really like Dak. I think that he's a vet who still has some creation ability. So I just have a hard time seeing what exactly it is that I don't love. Again, outside of the fact that if they had Lamar or Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or something, that would push them up into like number 1 conversations. They're not quite there, but they're one of the better built out offenses for sure.
They really are. You know what? I'll consider. I'm thinking about moving them around. I have to think about this maybe.
Well, you could make an argument. I'll say this: you could make an argument that like, how good would Dallas be if Dak went down? And he's missed time too, right? So maybe I'm overcompensating for the injury issues that Lamar has had, and I'm undercompensating for the injury issues that Dak has had. And like, they would be better than the Ravens would be without Lamar, sure, but they wouldn't be like great without Dak. They could make it work as the receivers, but they wouldn't be great.
But I will say I'm probably less worried about Dak's injuries than Lamar's, just because like when Dak gets hurt, it's not like, oh, he's tweaked his hamstring 4 times in the last calendar year. It's no, he shattered his ankle. You know, like those are the Dak Prescott injuries, and
Mm-hmm.
it is kind of a sliding scale of what you prefer to have happen. But I don't know. I am very intrigued because right now I have Dallas at 6, and even just like saying it out loud, it sounds too low.
I've got Dallas at 5, behind the Three Musketeers gang and the Rams. Last thing maybe I'll say about Baltimore is the 2024 Ravens and that Lamar season still does stick in my mind. If you were to tell me like someone just put up 40 on the Texans, someone just put up 40 on the Seahawks, like any guesses on who committed this? What would run through my mind is like Lamar versus San Francisco in 2023, Lamar versus Houston on Christmas, Lamar versus Denver when he had almost a perfect passer rating. Like he's gone toe to toe with some elite defenses, and they've just had no answer for him in the past. And last season, maybe that'll never happen again, or maybe it didn't happen last season where he cut through a top defense like butter, but he has done it many times in the past, and that's why I feel like I just cannot get too low on the Baltimore Ravens, especially when you consider Henry in the equation and consider him still to be a pretty decent player, and Andrews as well. I think Andrews is still a decent player, even though he's like old and cost them a chance at a ring. So the fan base, of course, doesn't like. Nobody is a big Mark Andrews fan after such a gaffe, but I don't think he's necessarily a negative receiving option for them. But anyway, I've got the Cowboys at 5. They could just fry, I think. I was looking at their contested catch numbers because that's the main thing I think of when I think of the Cowboys is this is a hyper aggressive quarterback. Dak has been top 5 in tight window throw rate each of the last 4 seasons. So we've got those chips in the shoulder pads now. We can see how far away people are from coverage when the ball gets released. And when Dak is throwing that ball, it's downfield, and it's given his wide receivers a chance. And last season, Dallas made 60 contested catches. In their division, the Giants made 36, Philly made 32, Washington made 42. They were at 60, third in the NFC overall behind Arizona and San Francisco, who just aren't like pedal to the metal quite like Dak is. Like I don't have any stats to back this up. I just feel like it means more when Pickens does it. They're first in aura to me in these contested moments, and who knows if these guys
when Pickens puts a hand on your shoulder and reaches up with the other hand, and it looks different.
It looks different, and who knows, like, is he coming down and keeping his feet and hurdling or something? Like, the amount of skill that these wide receivers are capable of is unmatched in the conference. Maybe you could have a conversation that the Bengals are there, but I just don't think anybody else in the NFC, unless like JSN or Justin Jefferson, is just like that you value them by themselves or something like that. I don't know, but Pickens was 4th in receiving yards per game last year. CeeDee Lamb was 6th in receiving yards per game last year. It's just potent. It's potent, and they have a good offensive line. Again, 2 really good guards in Tyler Booker and Tyler Smith, just big, wide, can move you against your will straight downhill, so they can keep that tempo going in the run game. Dak is such a vet, making changes at the line of scrimmage. They got everything going for them. Like you said, Blaiden, though, this doesn't necessarily show in the stats last season of like, oh, they just were, a Bills level offense or, a prime Ravens level offense. Like there were more incompletions. They don't have that ability to rip off 40-yard runs from their quarterback when the pocket breaks down. Dak wasn't number 1 versus pressure like he had been in the past. So maybe that's something that can bounce back a little bit.
He was still good.
Yeah. He was still good.
He's better than Stafford at this point for sure.
against pressure last year. Yeah, I could see that being. Yeah. But yeah, I got them fifth. I wish I wish they had a little bit of a better running back. Javonte Williams is good. He can fall forward, kind of churn forward, but the odds that he like leaves everybody behind him is you have to be
yeah,
pretty
I
slow.
see that.
And
And they don't have anybody behind them that I'm like super excited about.
Yeah,
Being
that
like,
backfield
maybe this will be
generally
the
is not like super dynamic. Like, oh, we're gonna be ripping off 20-yarders all damn day. I wish they had that dynamic.
So, what's everybody's top three? I know we've gone a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, I have the Rams, the Ravens, and then the Patriots at 3.
Okay. I have Rams, Bills, Cowboys.
Okay.
I've got Rams, Bills, Chiefs.
All right, let's talk about Kansas City first.
Yes.
I have Kansas City at 5. I think that their flaw that keeps them a little lower for me is pretty clear. They just don't have anybody I really trust to beat man consistently. They don't have anybody I trust as an outside winner. And I think Mahomes is going to get pretty good results overall. But last year this was brought up a lot in the comments and just talking about Mahomes online. It's like they were pretty bad against great defenses. And I do think when you go up against these defenses that have like a humongous talent advantage on the outside, Mahomes is awesome, but there's a limit. There's a limit on how much you're going to be able to do about that. So we'll see. Again, like I guess my thought on all of these teams is like where they're going to finish exactly in terms of DVOA. I could see fluctuating differently from my list, but I try to take into account like who am I going to want for the big time match? Who's hardest to game plan against? I did. Now, I could make an argument like Buffalo, who I have at 2, also has some issues at receiver, but I think DJ Moore is a really serious swing. I think Kincaid could be due for a big year. Shakir is at least like a solid slot option, and their run game is so good. And then Allen, compared again to some of these other quarterbacks, very health reliable, a really big creator. So it's like, okay, there's enough here for me to keep them decently high. With the Chiefs, I think Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. Love Kenneth Walker. I love the way that their offensive line is starting to shape up, but I just think, man, I mean, outside receiver is just so rough for them.
Yeah.
It makes me nervous.
It does. I mean, you talk about if you were building out an offense, Matt. I can't say that I would structure it like the Chiefs, where you just don't have any way to stretch the defense vertically. You don't.
I don't know. You got Thornton.
Oh.
Yeah, Thornton is okay.
And Worthy, like I know Worthy is kind of a like
Worthy is he's always banged up too, point. And he is kind of a hypothetical.
But that's why I say Thornton first, though, because Thornton legitimately did stretch the field for the Chiefs last year and had some crazy plays downfield. I mean, I think some of the best. The best throws that you're going to see on tape from all of last season. Go to NFL Pro and look up Tyquan Thornton deep balls. And they are just the best throws that anybody made last season from Patrick Mahomes. The problem is Tyquan Thornton is at the receiving end of them, and he's just not an elite deep threat. He's got the speed, but does he have the physicality to wrestle away every single throw that, a corner catches up to or a safety impacts? Like, not really, of course, but man, he's got a chance at most of them. And like, there's a play versus the Jaguars last year where it's an all out blitz, cover 0, and Tyquan Thornton is running the post. And Mahomes is like, I don't care if I have 0.5 seconds to throw this. I'm throwing that post because there's no safety. So he's like running backwards, like falling down, throwing it. And sure enough, it's Tyquan Thornton catches it. And it's like, holy cow, like to have that kind of verticality as an offense versus the cover 0, that's something that, you can count on one hand the quarterbacks that give you access to that kind of aggression and explosiveness. And Mahomes is one of them. I think he's just machine-like getting through the reads. And the Chiefs had 4 of the top 10 yards per route run receivers in this division last year. And Thornton was one of them with all those deep shots. Another one was Rashee Rice. He was actually number 1. I think he played in 8 games last season. He goes viral every day for like looking slow in training camp. We'll see if that ends up being true or mattering. I know he had a knee injury and then had to spend 30 days in jail this offseason, which just doesn't seem to be a great place to rehab something, would be prison. So maybe that made him slower. I could see that being true. I just don't know if these like training camp clips of him getting covered by somebody will matter too much once the games actually start, or if this is somebody who will have great production like he's had in the past. And then if Thornton can kind of pick up where he's left off or grow, if Rashee Rice can be who Rashee Rice has really been since he entered the league, like, is it a great receiving core? Not really, but has it worked for the Chiefs in the past? Like, yes. And then you add in K9, and this has been a pretty decent run game, I feel like, even with running backs who haven't been able to
really
bust
poor
any
rushing talent.
really poor rushing talent. Really poor rushing talent, but they still are able to, pick up all their 4th downs. They're still able to have a high success rate. They just can't bust anything long. And now you're adding a back from a backfield that was the most elusive in all of football last season, like a higher broken tackle rate even than Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier down in Atlanta. K9 was the ultimate reason for that, and you saw it through the playoff run, culminating in him winning Super Bowl MVP, obviously. So I wonder if it just is headed towards another like Baltimore versus Kansas City or Buffalo versus Kansas City AFC Championship game season. I feel like it's what has it been? One season since we had one of those, but I feel it that it's kind of going to go that way with maybe, a defense like Houston being able to crash the party. Obviously the Patriots I think are here to stay, but I think all those teams are going to kind of bounce back to where they've been before, and if they don't, they don't, but I just don't really feel like betting against any of them. Kansas City maybe least of all.
I think that's fair, and like K9, I really do think maybe took a step, like progressed as a runner last year. Is that crazy to say?
I think he's gotten better from his rookie year. That I feel confident.
Right? Like,
I understand that the offensive line also kind of like improved as the season went on, and maybe it's that. And he's always been a talented rusher, but it does feel like he's picking his spots the best that he ever has. And that he used to be a little bit more like always going for the home run, and that used to really bother me about him. So
he used to be really erratic with the like lateral cutting, and he'd like miss out on a hole right in front of him. And it still feels like he might be doing that, but somehow he finds a better hole this time. Like, it does feel like he has eyes in the back of his head a little bit. And I was thinking about, there's a clip where Jordan Brooks is breaking down how he's like he watches so much film of the way James Cook runs that he's able to predict his cutback lanes. And I'm like, dude, is K9 doing the same thing where he's able to predict the way that linebackers are going to fill gaps and is able to anticipate and jump cut out of those gaps that are going to be filled? It really does feel like he's hit a second level of a runner, and of like the elusiveness, the anticipation. It really does feel different. So maybe I should be a little bit higher on them for that reason. I do really love the K9 addition for them. I think I am going to keep them at 9. I think part of it is like, I'm expecting some, like, there is a level of anticipating growth from the Bears, who I have over them. Right. And I'm expecting the Bengals to also bounce back in a pretty big way with Burrow being healthy. But that's the only team I could see maybe putting Kansas City over is Cincinnati right now.
I'm gonna see it 4 for me. It's tough because if my criteria is, well, like, maybe I should think a little bit about what's going to hold up in the playoffs. It's tough to then be like, well, the outside receivers, I don't know if Mahomes can overcome that.
Right.
For the most part, I think he has proven that he can possibly overcome that sometimes in the playoffs. So
sometimes.
I'll move him up.
But also Kelsey is taking a step back.
Sure, but then also I agree with like Theo, where the receivers have actually been in a considerably worse spot than where they are now. Even if they're kind of like a little weird and all over the place, I would take what they've got now versus like what they had in 2023 at receiver specifically, for sure.
Sure. I think
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
fair.
Juju has been like a key piece for them over the years. But to some extent, I don't think you're wrong for having them at 9, Blaiden, or I don't really want to fight you on it because, like, to some extent, I'm just saying this because they are the Chiefs. And to play devil's advocate.
But I kind of did the same thing with the Ravens, where I'm like, well, they're kind of just goated.
Right. I'm just doing it. I'm doing it to all the big three in the AFC. I'm just being like, well, they're the blank. Like I'm keeping that mentality, but I mean, the Chiefs were ugly last year, and it does scare me putting them up this high because I mean, they started the year 2-3, and then you kind of kept waiting for them to, turn it on. This is kind of a story of all these AFC teams is like, when are the Ravens going to turn it on? When are the Bengals going to turn it on? When are the Chiefs are going to really turn it on? And none of them did. And maybe that means
they're all going to be fine, though. I really think that they're all good and that they just had wonky years. It just happens, man. I mean, the Chiefs are awesome because they had a devil magic year the year before where they won every one-score game. And like, what is it that happened with the Raiders and the field goal? Did they just miss, or did they like miss an opportunity?
Block it, right? Didn't Leo Chanel block that field goal?
They block a field goal to win a one-score game. I mean, it's like there's one-score games and they're what the Chiefs are doing, and then they turn around and they lose every single one-score game. The next year is like, it can happen, but I don't remember the last time it's happened quite like that. But overall, Kansas City's offense was still pretty good, and I think it noticeably improved from where it was last year in terms of hopefully Mahomes will play a full season. Yes. Hopefully they just had a huge upgrade in rushing talent, and hopefully the receiver talent here is at least a little better with some youth development, maybe with Rice being available the entire season. Maybe Cyrus Allen is more this time the camp darling isn't like
this is the next Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
If they do find the next Tyreek Hill, then yeah, this is the best offense.
He's the next Diggs, according to what I've heard. Is
yes. I mean, dude,
Tyreek Hill's also still sitting out there in free agency, and that's the other thing about the Chiefs is like we keep waiting for them to kind of make this deadline move last year, whether it be for Breece Hall. Who knows? It feels like they are in a position to maybe be aggressive at some point if some disgruntled star shakes loose for the tree. Like, could the Chiefs be the team that snaps them up? If the Cowboys defense is still sabotaging the offense and Pickens has 8 weeks left on his deal, I don't know. One of these AFC teams.
If they did that, yeah, they'd probably be the best offense in football.
Yeah, that I don't want to bank on that though, but there's still ways to improve the roster, and the bones are already pretty good.
Yeah, it is. And that brings us to the Patriots, who I'm feeling like I have significantly higher than both of you, but
I have them at 6. I mean,
okay.
It's tough. I think the top 13 teams, as I'm looking at it, I all feel like pretty confident are going to have really great offenses, and it's like someone's got to be cut. The Patriots last year ranked really highly because their passing offense was good, and their passing offense got better,
Yeah.
And I do think part of the, like, everybody's got great advanced analytics from last year is the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Chiefs were kind of all screwed up by the quarterback injuries, and then the Bills receiver room was so bad that even the Bills didn't have like a crazy passing offense that I think could improve even with just a DJ Moore addition. But that being said, the Patriots have a quarterback that I think is going to win MVP. They have AJ Brown, who is a little questionable in the sense that he's older and he's got some hamstring issues, but if he's even what he was last year is an insane upgrade. They're just better built out at receiver overall. I think they're going to be more consistent with more ability to just give May options versus man. And I think the offensive line has potential to improve, either from youth development or from some free agency additions that they made. So I still wonder how good exactly the rushing offense is going to be. I'm really worried about Henderson. The big playability is going to be, make him a guy where you're trying to get him on the field all the time. But the fact that he's not beating out Stevenson, even though Stevenson is a good back, but the fact that he's not like beating him out, and we're hearing all these concerning things when he also like didn't beat him out last year the way that we hoped, it makes me nervous. And he didn't really finish strong. Like it's all making me nervous about that. So
like Stevenson
I
is
think
a fine back, but their run game was frustrating last year, and you're like, dude, if you were hoping that when you put Henderson in, it's like, oh, it's gonna be like Nick Chubb, and he breaks off that long run, and you're like, there we go, there's the explosive plays, and then he just can't stay on the field because he like wasn't the blocker that you thought he'd be.
And he's just not consistent, I think, reading what's in front of him, to be honest with you. I don't think he's that guy in between the tackles. So he's this big play dude, and like his rushing average, I know, is above 5 yards, but he's way more frustrating, a little bit harder to get on the field, a little bit too inconsistent to actually constantly give the ball. So then he turns into one of these dudes where you feel like you're sacrificing something to get him the ball for that big playability, rather than it just being like, we have a running back who has big playability and at any time we can go off, especially with the blocking, which is, we've said it a million times, just a bizarre development from him. So yeah, I'm excited about Vera Tucker, but I think the offensive line is still questionable is where you'd have to put it at best. The rushing game is still questionable. And you know what? Like, as much as any team, great in the regular season, I think their numbers should be great again. But if the tackle play does not improve and May has the same issues he did last year, I guess it would be better because you still have better weapons, and that just means that your options are better. But we saw, like, the pressure really did get to him, and he had a very bad playoff run, and better receiver play is part of that, but the offensive line was as well. And I think, again, May just has a tendency to sit in there a little too long, and that's kind of maybe his biggest weakness for me right now, which can get better because he's young. But I don't hate the Patriots as a high pick.
I definitely, one thing I loved about May coming out of college was that he was willing to step up into kind of ugly pockets and make plays from the pocket in a way that you don't really see from college quarterbacks. A lot of guys want to go backwards, and he wanted to go forwards. But you're right, he does hold the ball for a really long time. The hope is that having better weapons would help him get the ball out quicker.
Right. There's guys who aren't consistently beating man coverage, and there's tackles also who are sometimes losing pretty horribly. And some of the bad plays I'm thinking of May, like, he's just sitting in there, and it's frustrating because he can just step up and go. As much as anybody, he can just step up and go.
And that's a fair criticism, too, is that maybe he should be running more.
Yeah, especially
certainly
in
if
those
we
games.
could redo the playoffs, he would do that, I think, if you gave him a chance to do it over again. And he needed to kind of force mismatches and win one-on-ones more than he did. It's like, well, it didn't come from my teammates, so it's going to have to be me. May, I kind of liked that we all picked May for MVP this year. It'll make week 1 versus Seattle the opener.
It's not gonna
It'll put us out of our misery very quickly.
It's going to make it fun. It means that we've jinxed the hell out of him, and they're putting up 4 points. But
2 safeties.
At least it'll just be over then. But last year, I think the image in my head that stays with me through the playoffs is like the Kayshawn Booty target on the sideline where he was covered by Job on the left sideline, where he's just like shoved all the way out of bounds versus press coverage. The Patriots faced a lot of press last year, and A.J. Brown is just the press killer. Like, over the course of his career, nobody has been better versus press coverage than A.J. Brown. Swole Batman. He's built like literally a brick. Like, he is so explosive in his torso and like through his core and his legs that like you want to go like push him as a cornerback. You better be a cornerback built like A.J. Brown, and that guy just doesn't really exist. So to me, that is the right guy to go get for the problems you had last year in the playoffs. And I'm just treating Drake May at this point like he's Aaron Rodgers, basically. Like, this is the best EPA per dropback performance under pressure that we've seen since Josh Allen in 2022, according to NFL Pro.
Wow.
He was second in adjusted accuracy, so that doesn't count when you a wide receiver has a drop, basically, is completion percentage without drops counted. He was second behind Jared Goff. He was also second in average depth of target. I think the only other guy who was top 5 in both categories last year was Josh Allen, who was a little bit behind Drake May in the adjusted accuracy and the average depth of target. Guys like Stephon Diggs were top 20 in every single wide receiver category last season, like yards, receptions, first downs. He had one of the highest EPA per targets in the league. I think he had the second highest wide receiver catch rate of anybody. And then Kayshon Boutte led the league in yards per target. He was just traded for a 7th round pick.
That's crazy. Yeah, that blew my mind.
Like he just like everybody that you plug into this system around May, I think has a chance to be really, really good and elevated.
Mm-hmm.
I remember last season, Bill Barnwell wrote an article of like, look, the schedule was weak last season, but like the Browns may be a weak team to play, but they've got a good passing defense. And like the 49ers may be a very good team to play, but they have a weak passing defense. And when you kind of just look at the passing defenses, like May's schedule wasn't so historically bad or anything like that. So that makes me think like this year, yeah, they're going to be able to repeat their, number 1 passing EPA performance, which is what they had overall. So I've got them here at 6 as well. I agree. I echo everything that you guys have said. The run game isn't quite as weighty as like the Rams and the Bills to me. And there's still some that needs to be proven after the playoff run. And with how young Drake May is, but overall, I think you can treat the Patriots like they're here to stay.
And their rushing offense too, at least like statistically, could be better by EPA or DVOA if they don't fumble the ball a million times like they did last year. They were like last in rushing to start the season. And they have a lot of youth and some continuity. I wonder if there's actually a little bit more upside with their rushing game throughout the season as we get into year 2 with some of these young players and as they make, I don't know, I'm thinking about that. Or if they can, again, just not fumble the ball as much as they did. So yeah, I have them at 6, but they're another one of those teams where something clicks and they could be 1.
Yeah. That's the thing is like this passing offense, which was super, super, super special last year. They put up 30 against the Browns, even though May got sacked 5 times. And they just added AJ Brown and Dobbs, dude. Like they really are. And there just aren't, like a lot of these teams we're looking at, it's like, well, the Ravens are technically getting Lamar back. Like if they get full form Lamar back, then they've added that, right? Or like the Chiefs are getting Mahomes back. But a lot of these teams in our top 10 didn't really add a ton as far as like an influx of talent. The Patriots were the number 1 passing offense last year and added something to make it even better. Like I really do think that could be enough juice to get them.
Is
like
AJ Brown the biggest addition that any team in your top 10 made?
Not including like guys back from injuries.
Oh, K9. I don't know.
Excluding guys back from injuries, though.
Excluding guys back from injuries, because then it's then we go
exactly
down that rabbit hole or whatever, and just remembering who's injured. I would say that if AJ Brown's hamstring is good and he's good to go, the impact that a wide receiver like that has, I think, is bigger than the impact that a running back
has. And I think Brown, I like K9 a lot. I think he's not in the tier of AJ Brown as a wide receiver.
Yeah, I think K9 towards the end of last year was like pretty much.
K9 is pretty good.
He was like a very, very high end like weapon. He was playing like a top 5 running back at the end of last year. He was.
Yeah. If he's playing like he was in the playoffs, like he might be top 3 running back, man.
He was playing like a tier one guy. But yeah, AJ Brown has been that dude, and we've seen his impact everywhere he's gone for a long time. So I would say AJ Brown.
Yeah, I would agree. So who have we not talked about? So let's just run through our top 5s real quick, because I feel like that's kind of, I have Rams, Ravens, Patriots, Bills, Cowboys. I move the Cowboys up from 6 to 5.
All right, I'll go Rams, Bills, Cowboys. I'll move the Chiefs up to 4, and then I'll have the Bengals at 5.
I've got Rams, Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, Cowboys, Patriots at 6, and then the Bengals at 7. So they're my
Okay.
highest ranked.
I have the Bengals. I have the Bengals at 8. Let's talk about the Bengals then, because they're kind of in a similar vein as Dallas. They feel like a budget version of Dallas to me offensively.
Not that budget, in my opinion.
Not that budget, though. It's really just I think their offensive line is better. Although I don't think the Bengals' offensive line is quite the disaster that it used to be.
I think it's pretty dang close, to be honest with you.
You think is it as bad as it was in the Super Bowl?
Oh, the Bengals' offensive line right now? No, I'm saying that it's close to Dallas. I think.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I don't think it's a disaster at all.
Yes. Yeah, no, I really do like the Bengals.
You know, the Bengals had a statistically pretty solid run game last year, you know, and I understand a lot of that is the threat that these receivers have and how you have to adjust to Chase and Higgins first. But guess what? Chase and Higgins are on the team, man. And if you have Burrow back and 100%,
Great point.
Yeah, well, it's like I look in a vacuum. If you just took like the offensive line and Chase Brown and you put it in like a standard environment, they would not be as good as if they had these other dudes who make the defense adjust, and then that opens things up. So maybe, I don't know, they're like sneaking into the top 10 and some statistics in terms of rushing efficiency, but maybe they aren't really as good as that number would say in terms of just the rushing talent or the rushing game talent. But you add receivers that can do that in a rushing game that can be really effective and force defenses to not even take it into account. I guess be the counterpunch to defenses having to sell out to stop Chase and Burrow and Higgins. And that has the potential to be one of the best offenses in the NFL pretty easily. Now, Burrow has a tendency to take sacks. It's been talked about a lot recently, which is fair. Burrow's injury history is very concerning. Burrow is going to want to get the ball out, I think, a little more, and he doesn't run maybe quite as much as he used to. Not that he ever ran like a crazy amount, but I do think there's a difference between a guy who can feel comfortable scooting out there, like, you know, a handful of times a game versus somebody who is like really, really thinking about it every time they want to run at all. So if that's where Burrow needs to be to stay healthy, do it. But it is a negative. It is a drawback. That being said, though, I think you've got great weapons, a great quarterback who can really create, and an offensive line that can not be dominant, but hold up in a run game that certainly can be effective enough to provide good efficiency and to not let defenses off the hook. That sounds like a really, really good offense to me.
Yeah, they've got Connor Liu, man. They should be the best offense.
Their depth is so good, man. I love their depth.
Protector of the year, Connor Liu.
Yeah, really the only thing that I think really separates the Cowboys from the Bengals, I think if the Bengals offered Zach Taylor to the Cowboys in a trade, they'd be like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
Sure.
I agree there. And I also think I'm always side-eyeing, I guess Gesicki's all right. I think the Cowboys' weapons are a little bit deeper. Again, I think Ferguson's solid. I like Flinoy pretty decently. Like I've said 1 trillion times. But that's, I mean,
how much do you like Flinoy?
I love him so much, dude. His yards per route run are crazy, bro. You won't believe it. Whereas, like, I feel like the Bengals have always struggled a little bit with kind of the depth at receiver. It's always been a little spotty. So,
I mean, we saw Chase come down on his leg weird and was like limping off the field, and he's fine now, it seems. But like that was really scary, in part because he might just be the best receiver in football, and losing him in any scenario is bad. But like, you're right that like if you got down to like that next guy up, like it does get a little bit dicey of like, how are you really creating explosives in this offense?
That Chase clip where he grabs at his knee and crawls off, I almost threw.
I grabbed my knee, dude. Like it was.
It was ugly, but I mean, he didn't practice today, and I haven't. He said that he just tweaked it, so like word of mouth
Yeah.
seems pretty good. I'm not too concerned about it, but
The
like
report was that he
jeez,
was like hanging out on the sideline after that, and they're gonna have to
If
get
he
an MRI.
torn his
but it's not that
ACL,
bad.
we would
Yeah,
know
he
by
would
now,
not
I
have
feel
been
like.
chilling. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And Blaiden has good perspective on this. You cannot chill around after tearing the ACL all that much.
Not really.
I think the Bengals. If you just look at the coverages teams play against the Bengals, it's pretty. It becomes clear pretty quickly that they're a pretty special offense. Like the amount of attention that gets devoted to T and Chase is just insane. Like it's cover 2 man, and like someone who's never seen football before can like decipher what the coverages are doing. They're like, oh, those safeties are just up high and the corners are just funneling both of those receivers to the safeties. Like you don't usually see coverage work like that. Like you'll see, a cover 2 over a great wide receiver or something like that. But for it to follow both of them around like that, it speaks to just how good those 2 receivers are. And man, does it open up just everything else about this offense. And they still are as productive or more productive than any other receiver duo in the league through all that. It's really, really good. And any kind of outbreaking route where the safeties can't really follow them because the wide receivers are running into the sideline, the Bengals are more productive hitting that throw than any other team in the league. Once Burrow came back in week 12 last season, they had the highest EPA passing versus man in the league. Like, it's pretty clear the advantages this quarterback and these 2 wide receivers give you. They do run play action less than any other team in the league. It is a lot of straight drop back. It does put Burrow in harm's way, despite the fact that their offensive line has gotten better. Now it seems like they're trying to change that a little bit. They're trying to get that shell around Joe Burrow like Matthew Stafford has a little bit more, like where, hey, we can get our running back behind Burrow under center and run downhill. And we can pick up yardage that way. That's what they want because it's what the elite offenses have. Play action is a better play than without play action. And that's really only true under center. And Burrow's, average depth of target, I think, and the frequency that he's hitting those big go balls like they were hitting back in 2021 when they went to the Super Bowl, it's just not happening at the same rate. So they've got to find other ways to be explosive. They got to find ways to protect Burrow. He had his lowest completion percentage of his life last year. So I have no doubts that they can find a kind of a balance and become possibly the best offense in the league based on their personnel. I think it's fair to say. But I'm a little bit worried about the growing pains as they try to shift to this maybe new identity. I mean, Burrow played that first week of preseason and got sacked twice versus the Lions. Both of those were that under center game where he turned his back and then turned around. And that's just something that this line hasn't really had to block before. It's not something that Burrow's been very comfortable with in the past. And those kind of schematic questions and Zach Taylor questions really are why I've got them here at 7 instead of higher. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I would say the same. But Chase is so good. Having a tier 1 wide receiver, a true dominant guy like that, might be enough where I could see him higher. And we'll see how Burrow looks at 100% because I think his ceiling is a little higher than Dak's too.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, maybe I could see them being higher than Dallas here, but yeah, I think I'm with you on like the infrastructure, the way that Dallas designs their offense feels a bit more. There's just more. There's more to the design.
There's more. I think the red zone's a good thing to look at for the Bengals. They were one of the worst red zone teams once Joe Burrow came back, and I think it's because they'll be on the 3-yard line and it'll be like empty. It's like, well, what are the odds you score here throwing it even to Jamar Chase versus if you can just run it straight downhill with Javonte Williams under center? And that's a big reason why I feel like they got to work on under center throughout the entire field, is so once they get into the red zone, maybe they can finish those drives a little bit better. You don't want to be breaking out something that you don't try anywhere else, really, I think. So Um, I'm very, very curious to see the Bengals next season and what this looks like because they just cannot afford any growing pains. The pressure is too high. Everybody's playing for their jobs, for the future of Cincinnati. And at the same time, they're trying to kind of, work in something new.
Yeah, the entire AFC North kind of hit the refresh or recycle button, except for the Bengals. So this is a big season for them to kind of prove that they were right to not do that.
I watched a video of mine that popped up like 4 years ago today or whatever, 5 years ago today.
Yeah.
And it was me trying to predict coaches that would get fired mid-season. One was Matt Nagy. That's a cook.
Yeah.
My second one, I said, I think Urban Meyer is going to quit mid-year.
Did you really?
Yes.
That's a good one.
Greatest take of all time.
Ooh.
My third guy that I thought might get fired mid-season was Taylor.
Yeah.
And he's still kicking around.
He hung on.
Yeah.
Greatest take of all time, probably. What if Deshaun Watson is back? And somebody was like, "That's not how it works." What if it is? I got such a kick out of that.
Nobody just forgets how to play football. But what if he does?
I like that you didn't make like any argument at all.
It was purely a hypothetical. Like, I didn't want Deshaun on the Browns because 27 accusations, like, obviously, but. And then he was $230 million. But I'm just like, yeah, dude, wouldn't it be crazy if he just like wasn't good at football?
Some of these, I'm searching your account now for what if. Some of these are cooked and some of these are not.
Well, because the thing is, when one hits, I try and like capitalize on it by hitting some more what ifs, and a lot of those are misses.
Okay, here we go. What if
Yeah.
the Eagles blow out the Chiefs February 5th, 2025? That's what happened.
That is
Next
what happened.
one.
Cook.
What if every NFL player got a BBL?
Not a cook at all, admittedly.
What if the
We
Bears pick
we might not even be at one yet, frankly. So
Debo?
Is there any athletic or schematic advantage to an NFL player getting a BBL?
Bill Belichick called the ass a power generator. That's your power generator, and that's why I stood behind the.
Yeah,
40.
but you have to get muscle there.
I don't know if the mechanics of the BBL would quite translate, to be honest with you.
I might have to agree with Matt here.
We might have
What
to
if-
look into it.
What if the Bears picked J.J. McCarthy first overall? What if the
Didn't happen.
Panthers win the Super Bowl?
That's a good shot. Don't let them tell you it's not. It's a great shot.
What if the
Well,
Seahawks win the NFC West 2024, Blaiden?
Ooh,
We were 1 year away with our Seahawks hype, and then we gave up before the Gems. What if the Jets traded for Kyler Murray? What if the Dolphins traded for Justin Fields? What if the Raiders don't draft Mendoza? There's so many of these. What if the Cardinals traded to Kyler Murray for Watson? What if the Browns won the Super Bowl? What if George Pickens is the best wide receiver in the NFL this year? What if?
Was that this year or was that last offseason?
No, that was
This was 2 off seasons ago.
yeah.
I'm still.
is 2020.
It's not true, but he's gotten good enough so where we're calling that a cook.
Okay.
What if the Detroit Lions were to win the Super Bowl next year, 2022? That's a good one. What if the NFL draft was like the movie Draft Day? It kind of is in a way.
In a
Trading
way.
picks and whatnot, selecting players.
Yeah, it's hard to say that's one's a cook because it already did work like that. In fact, it's sort of a chicken and egg type situation, but we know. If you were like,
There's so many.
There's a lot.
You need to fire off a couple more of these before the season starts.
I haven't put out a what if in a while. I think my most recent one is what if the Raiders don't draft Mendoza?
What if Wemby goes undrafted? What if Kyle Trask wins MVP?
come on.
Great shots, right?
Look, dudes will celebrate you and give much applause when you hit on a Watson one, but they don't like the process that it takes to get there. They hate the process.
They don't see the work. They don't see me in the lab cooking up. Oh no, my most recent is what if the Miami Dolphins win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I should just tweet out what if
I'm still scrolling what if.
the Super. There's so many. There's like just random ones like from games where it's like, what if this kick gets blocked? And
what if the Steelers find a way? What if the Steelers find a way?
Yeah, man.
I talk about the Steelers in my entire comment section literally is that. Yeah, I don't think Rodgers is very good, and it's a pretty old offense. And I didn't like the coaching hire. Then
out of context, that's so
say that.
funny. I don't even know.
Lamar Jackson goes to the Patriots. What happens? What would happen if you spelt applesauce with a B?
Oh, you don't. There's a guy.
No, that's a good one. It's not, man. It's not a good one.
That's technically a what would happen if, not what if.
That's true.
Different category.
I was just scrolling through all my what ifs. There's some good ones in there though too. And next up, we have what if the Detroit Lions were the 6th best offense in the NFL?
That's your ranking, 6th?
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on how I feel about Detroit in kind of the same way I have about Buffalo. But I've realized that really my big problem with Detroit above all else is their defense is kind of scary. But I do think their offense is still going to be quite good. Gibbs is really, really special. St. Brown, J-Mo, Laporta. I do think Tesla is going to get some work. He is really, really a special contested catch threat. They just have so many weapons. It's hard for me not to find a way for this offense to be productive. And they also have like the human highlight reel on their offensive line in Penei Sewell, right? It's like they've just got so many high-level players. And Goff is a good quarterback. I know we're not as high on him as maybe some people are, but he's still quite good. And you know, he's probably the worst quarterback in our top 10s here, but I think given the situation that he's in, it's about as good as it gets. It's probably one of the best situations, if not the best situation for a quarterback.
Goff is good in structure, and he's poor in structure. He just doesn't have a lot of creation ability. I mean, the story on him has been written for some time, but being your offense isn't necessarily a bad thing if you have a good offense, and he does. I really like the weapons here. I feel like the offensive line should be improved. I don't know. I think they sort of had a weird run of things last year where the run game wasn't quite itself. I think this season it could probably start to trend back towards a little better. You know, Montgomery for Pacheco or Pacheco for Montgomery is kind of a tough swing. But honestly, maybe if you get more Gibbs overall because of that, it could still end up being a positive. And I'm really excited about the season that Gibbs could have here. I'm high on Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know. I have him at 8. I'm not quite as high, I guess. But overall, like, yeah, this was a good offense last year. It's pretty consistently been a very good offense. And I would be surprised that if it wasn't going forward. Really, the big swing for them is Petzing. That's the big change.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the big change. I think philosophically, he's in line with what they've done in the past. Like, Declan Doyle, we didn't mention this. He went to Baltimore and he was Ben Johnson's OC last year. You know,
right.
That's a somewhat big offensive philosophical change for Baltimore, I believe, is like plucking from that tree. But for the Lions, I think it'll be kind of same old, like under center more than just about any team. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Yankee concept. Oh my God, Yankee concept. We need the Yankee concept. Post, play action, check the post. If there's a post safety, go down to the dig, throw the dig. Like that's 99% of what they run is that route. And it's sick because they have JMO to space the field on the post. And then they have Amon Ra running the juicy inbreaker. And then they have Gibbs as the underneath play action threat that brings everybody else. It's just elite spacing on this concept. And so I think you and me could probably be the Lions OC and just run Yankee and have it work because they've got like the perfect people to do it. And since 2022, they are the second best drop back EPA team behind the Bills since 2022. It's them in Buffalo. And yeah, it's because of the ship they've built around Jared Goff. I feel like it's got elite skill position talent. I think it clears the other teams in this division, the skill position talent. I don't think Goff does, but I think the skill does. And I got them at number 10 overall. It surprises me how low their run offense was last year. Cade Mays is banged up for a while. That is a bit of a setback.
Yeah, it is. That's a good point.
It could mess up, some of what they do on the interior. Obviously, Sewell is Sewell, but every other spot is like, well, it's kind of looking like last year, and now Sewell's going to be playing left tackle instead of right. I don't really think that'll matter because Sewell is such an elite player, but things like that, and then Goff just being pretty poor under pressure, and do I trust them as much as I trust Jordan Love or Caleb Williams if a team like Houston or whoever was like really getting through the offensive line? Like, could they just kind of kill the snake at its head, like with Goff compared to those other two teams in the division? I think that's possible. So I've got the Lions at 10, even though their skill room is like so dangerous, and they've been a lot higher than 10 since Dan Campbell and Gibbs came around, really.
They have. I could definitely see myself putting them a little lower because if the run game doesn't get back to that level, you are scratching your head a little bit. But I do just think Gibbs is so good. Like he's this. I mean, he's beyond explosive. He's got good contact balance, good vision. I mean, we've all ranked him as a top 2 back. Actually, Theo, you might have had Saquon above Gibbs.
I had Saquon number 1.
You had Saquon
I think
1.
He's an elite back, I'll tell you that. I think Jonathan Taylor and CMC and Henry and Saquon and Bijan and Gibbs are all that tier 1 to me. But I think with running backs and the age cliff that we've seen in the past, if you just wanted to narrow that down to like Gibbs and Robinson, I could see doing that too.
Yeah. So I could see putting them lower, but I do just think they've got the guys offensively to be one of the best offenses in football, point blank. And we all have them in our top 10 for that reason. But we're also getting to that point in the year where you realize summer's almost over. Football's back, and it's probably time to get your wardrobe ready for the fall as well. That's why Quince has become one of our favorite places to get those everyday pieces that you actually end up wearing all the time. Quince makes premium basics like organic cotton tees, Mongolian cashmere, denim, and tailored chinos, but without the typical luxury brand markup. Their pieces are made with premium materials, and they're priced everything 50 to 80% less than similar brands by working directly with ethical factories and cutting out the middlemen. And it's not just their clothes either. They've got bedding, essentials, cookware, and travel stuff as well. Basically, if you're looking to upgrade some of the stuff you use every day, Quince makes it pretty much as easy as it gets. Upgrade your everyday. Download the Quince app for app-exclusive offers, or go to quince.com/stayhot. Get free shipping on your order and 365-day returns, now available in Canada and in the UK. That's QUINCE.com/stayhot. And, if you're looking to finally get you something that can stand out this football season, got to check out our other good friends over at GLD. We've been wearing them for a while now, and it's one of those things you really just like how much a good chain or bracelet can change an otherwise relatively basic outfit. You throw on a clean piece and suddenly the whole thing looks more put together. GLD has chains, bracelets, pendants, and watches, and they've got everything from entry-level 18-karat gold plated pieces all the way up to solid gold and natural diamonds. So there's something for pretty much any budget. They also have official NFL collaboration, so you can get pendants representing your favorite NFL team, which feels pretty perfect considering NFL season is right around the corner. And every piece comes with, of course, a lifetime guarantee. So if you want to upgrade your look heading into football season, check out GLD. New customers get 40% off with the code STAYHOT at GLD.com. That's 40% off with the code STAYHOT at GLD.com. You'll hear about our other good friends over at Dabble here from Theo in a little bit. The Chicago Bears are the other team that I'm really high on coming into this year. I have them winning the NFC North in large part because I'm expecting, Caleb is sort of already broken out in some ways, right? He's on the cover of Madden. He's had, if you made a tally of the 10 best throws from last year, at least half of them would probably be Caleb Williams throws. But you're looking to see that completion percentage come up. You're looking for a little bit more consistency just from this offense in general. And I do think with the weapons that they have, Roma Dunze, Colston Loveland, I'm not a huge fan of their running backs, but I can't deny that the run game is efficient and has been successful, right? And with Burden, I really do feel like they're kind of in a similar vein as the Lions, where I like a lot of their weapons to a lesser degree, but then I'm also really high on what Caleb Williams could end up being this year. I think he's got a pretty good shot. If they end up making a serious push for one of the top 2 seeds, he could be in MVP conversations, right? That's kind of the level of quarterback that Caleb is, where I don't think Goff is quite that guy. So I have the Bears right below the Lions, just because I think the Lions have a better offensive ecosystem around than the Bears do. But I love a lot of their pieces, but some of them kind of still need to prove something a little bit.
My feeling is there's a little bit of a consistency issue with Caleb and the accuracy, but overall, his top moments are as good as anybody's. Whether or not he becomes more consistent with the accuracy is yet to be seen. Even last year, they were really good. I am interested to see how, losing Dahlman goes. I do think they have a couple of questions on the offensive line. And while I like their weapons a lot, they are still kind of an unknown as to where exactly they're going to land. And that pushes them down just a tick for me. But ultimately, I really believe in kind of all the pieces here. I have them at 9, but if you told me that we saw the best possible outcome for them and that Loveland was the centerpiece and that Burden really built off of what he did last year and was this great downfield threat, and that Adunze just had sort of a bounce back season and a lot of the concerns about him were answered. I mean, how good, even with a slight improvement to Caleb's accuracy, how would you feel about it? And just the overall consistency, you would figure they'd have one of the top offenses, especially with Ben Johnson. So I don't know. Personally, I feel like they're a team that's a little scary to rank as low as I've got them, but I'm pretty in.
It's tough. You could very easily find yourself on the end of Bears FC Twitter page, Caleb Williams truther on Twitter, and there's you had the Bears all the way down at 9, and they're the best offense in the NFL. What was wrong with you? Yeah,
and if that happens, they have their right to.
Yes, fair enough. Theo, how do you...
if the Bears finish with number 1 offense, go ahead and open fire. I'll take that out.
So I have the Bears at 7, but I also have another NFC North team in my top 10, and it's the last team in my list, and that is the Green Bay Packers, slot in at my number 10 spot. I originally didn't have them on there, and then I'm realizing that maybe it's sort of this thing that Matt's been talking about where maybe it's not the exact selection of guys that you would necessarily choose at receiver, but Christian Watson is a very good deep threat. Matthew Golden still has some tools that are interesting, and Jordan Love is a very good quarterback. The thing that really gets me is like their offense has been really good, and for all this talk about Jordan Love throws up hamburgers and that clip that keeps going viral, but like their offense has been very good with him at quarterback, and I do think it will continue to be. So I did decide to slot them in at number 10.
That's fair. I ended up having them at 12. They are really good with Love at quarterback. I actually like the receivers a lot. I think Watson has improved so much and has the potential to, I think, really go off this year. Golden, I know what the numbers say, but when you watch him, it really does seem like he's got the speed and the route running ability to be a real threat if he can get a bigger workload. And I like Jaden Reed as well. LaFleur has always put together good offenses there. The offensive line is pretty scary. And my guess is that it would be the worst offensive line of any team that we're really considering for the top 10. That is something that they've worked through before, but it still does scare you in general. And again, if we're talking about just like when you get into the playoffs, is that going to be a problem? The answer is absolutely yes, it could be. So I had them down at 12. I have two more teams in my top 10 that we haven't gotten to, one of which I'm a little surprised you didn't have at all, which is the 49ers. You want to talk about being successful last year, in spite of everything going against them, they were still the number 2 offense by DVOA. Their passing game is just impossible to destroy because Kyle Shanahan is just that good. The 7 even feels low. I do think there's a limit on how much you can survive when you get into the playoffs, and that does kind of feel like what has happened to them several times now. Kittle is super important, and he's coming back from a major injury at a pretty big age. McCaffrey has been more healthy than not in his 49ers tenure, but also it's the oldest he's ever been and will continue to be the oldest he's ever been.
Almost feels like he's due, which like...
Well, and he's already having like Achilles injuries, and he's coming off a humongous workload year, and he's the one guy where it's like, I don't know if you can just replace him. I don't know if you can just like wave a magic wand and say whatever. And then the receivers that maybe you could be excited about, like Pearsall's already done. Evans is already looking like kind of questionable. Stribling, I know, has looked good in preseason, but that is a big negative. I like it, if you can have Purdy for the whole year, that's a big upgrade. I like Purdy a decent amount. And with Shanahan, I'm just not going to put them too low. But ultimately, I have a hard time putting them all the way back up at 2 when they have this many question marks, even with Shanahan. Maybe that's wrong, but it's just
the 49ers were the team that I bumped out for Green Bay.
Yeah, Green Bay I kind of feel similar about, to be honest with you, though, and the 49ers have just done it a little bit better. The other team that I have in my top 10 is the Los Angeles Chargers, though. Elite quarterback, elite play caller. I think that's a combo that not many teams have. The interior of the offensive line, Biotish being out makes it super questionable, but the tackle play should be better. And I think the receiver room is good enough to work with. I still like Ladd a lot. I think he's a great separator and a great route technician, and I think he's going to have a better workload next year with Keenan Allen gone. Johnston has been serviceable and improved a lot from his rookie year. Brennan Thompson is somebody I'm kind of excited to see. Trey Harris, I think, is an interesting dart throw going forward. Can he develop into this big body, deep threat out on the perimeter? There's definitely some potential there in year 2. So there's enough there for me to kind of buy into, okay, if you have Herbert and what he was able to do last year, and you give him a play caller who can establish this great outside run game, and then allow Herbert to maybe even just kind of not really be a counter, of course, but kind of be the counter off of that, or build the passing game off of that and make the defense worry about more than just Justin Herbert and absolutely nothing else. I think the ceiling here is pretty high, and there's just not many good quarterbacks with good play callers that are not going to produce a top 10 offense unless the offensive line completely falls apart again. Then who knows? And certainly that can happen. Yeah. I'll take the Biotish stuff into account, and at tackle, I'm just going to cross my fingers and sneak them on in here.
Yeah, I am very much worried about the receivers. like as much as I love Herbert and I do think the play calling is going to be a massive upgrade, and we brought this up on the AFC West episode, part of the benefit in Miami was they had Tyreek and Waddle, and there just isn't a receiver on the Chargers that's even close to that level. And so that does concern me, is like, are they really going to be able to create explosives? But also, I think you're fair to be like, maybe they don't need them. You know, Mahomes has been able to, have these high level offenses without, these super explosive passing plays. So like, it can obviously be done, but I am a little bit concerned about, I don't love their running back. I don't love the receivers. Even if the tackle play is an upgrade, it feels like it could kind of just be Herbert a little bit.
I don't think it's going to just be Herbert.
Maybe not. But
McDaniel said something on the Chris Sims show, like, I haven't been a part of a offense where the quarterback was the best player since Matt Ryan. He's like, did you play in a mysterious Matt Ryan year when Julio Jones? It's like, what?
Yeah.
That's kind of a funny thing to say.
I don't know if you do want your quarterback to be the best player anyway. Like, I had
You'd love an even better player than that, to be honest with you. I think it's fine to have your quarterback be your best player, though. All the teams that have their quarterbacks, they have all the best quarterbacks. That's good.
Yeah, that is great. That is great. But you would love. He said that like it was a good thing, and I was like,
receiver for sure.
Greg Roman just dealt with a situation where his quarterback was his best player. That didn't like necessarily help him. I wish there was any Chargers skill player where I was like, that guy, I know he rocks, and there just isn't. So that's why they're not in the top 10 for me.
Yeah.
I finished it out with just the NFC North. So I had the Bengals at 7, and then I went Packers 8, Bears 9, Lions 10, San Francisco 11. And that's really like all those play callers have been known to generate, pretty effective offenses. And that's really the personnel that I like best, I think, in that order.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think I got to give Shanahan a little bit more credit. But again, if McCaffrey goes down, I wonder if that's just like too much,
It could be over. It could be over. And even McCaffrey, like, he's a very, very special receiving threat, but his rushing efficiency is very, very low at this point. And so there is sort of a ceiling to this offense as well.
Yeah, the explosiveness in San Francisco has been stripped, it feels like, over the years, even though they've, maintained very good offensive results. Like losing Ayuk to whatever it is hurts. Kittle tearing his Achilles. Maybe he's back week 1, but I mean, that hurts explosiveness going forward. McCaffrey, still a great receiver with a ton of gravity. I think carried them last year in certain ways. But you're right, Blaiden, that the rushing explosiveness and ability to punch through big plays kind of left. And I just feel like San Francisco is kind of, despite last season, it feels like they're on a bit of a downward trajectory just with age. And then the Packers at the top of this stack, I think they've got a lot of speed and a lot of explosiveness and guys who are really tough to run with Reed and Watson and Golden and Kraft and Jacobs. I think it's the most underrated skill position room probably in football. Golden, you can say, oh, the numbers aren't friendly to him and he's been bad not only last year but in college. But I mean, on third downs last year, he was our best weapon. I mean, he was elite on third downs, kind of in these gotta have it route situations. So I think when you give him something to do, like, hey, we need the yards, we're going to you, like, he can get open, but fitting within the context of the entire offense and kind of carving out this niche as a rookie in a crowded receiving room just didn't happen naturally for him. I think this preseason, he's shown that, he's a talented receiver. It's not like he was frustrating last year with drops or, anything too bad when he was targeted. It's just like he kind of got lost in the shuffle with Dobbs and Wicks. And I think those guys are good players, but I think these three can be just as good, if not better. They're certainly faster, and Love has been the most explosive quarterback in the league since he's become a starter. Like, his percentage of plays that are big chunk plays is so high. And those are really what you're looking for from any offense. And Love just generates them at such a high rate. And I think he's got wide receivers who can really, really pay off those big shots downfield and get open downfield. And yeah, they're tough to hang with, especially when it's a crossing route, something where, they're running in a straight line for a while across the field. I really like what the Packers offense can be since Love became the starter in 2023. They're the most efficient passing offense in the league. I know there's been a lot of that through different time periods this episode. Since then it's this, since then it's this. But, since Love was became starter, Packers are number one, especially if you put on any kind of garbage time filter. Like, let's take out when it's 30-0 and look at the stats then. Then the Packers jump up really high. Like, the gap between them and second place is like the gap between second and sixth. So they're hated on and I think underrated a lot by casuals, the Packers. But
True.
man, Love has been crazy efficient because of all those explosive plays with these speedy wide receivers. So I put them at 8. The Bears, love Caleb Williams, but I mean, he's been inaccurate this preseason so far. Not that matters too much, but last year he was inaccurate as well. Just hasn't been as dialed as Love.
Yeah.
And I don't love Rome and Burden and Jade Walker as much as and Loveland, of course. No discounting Loveland. But the wide receivers vertically downfield, I don't think they're quite as good as what the Packers have. And the Lions have better receivers down the field, but I don't think that Goff is as good. And I don't think Goff is as can do as much in a tight situation. So that's why I kind of stacked that order like I did.
I think the Packers definitely have the worst offensive line by a significant margin of those three, though.
Yeah.
Probably.
Not probably. No, they just do. The Bears and Lions, yeah. But I mean, the Lions' offensive line isn't quite the
Lions
pinnacle
struggled
that it
last
used
year,
to
yeah.
be. But it's still
Sure.
better than the Packers.
Yeah, the Packers are dealing with some complete unknowns, I'd say. Like Jordan Morgan being the left tackle when all he's been is bad is like, yeah, that could be horrible.
It's not good.
And I think our starting right guard is going to be like Jagger Burton, who was a day 3 pick out of Duke. And
Shut up.
I like some of his high-end plays in preseason. He looks like a phenomenal athlete, like undersized, but almost one of those skill position coded offensive linemen with how he moves around. But I mean, is he going to get overwhelmed with power? I had the binoculars on him in the preseason, and he certainly did a couple of times. Yeah. Although he certainly had some plays where he looked like a weapon in the run game as well, and torqued Zach Allen to the ground on one play and got a pancake that went viral. But he's a rookie, and Morgan is like basically a bust to this point of his career that they're hoping can, reward their patience. So, and then, Sean Ryan and Aaron Banks are like average replacement level players. And then Zach, not Tom, the artist formerly known as Zach Tom, Baco Bawele, I think is the name he changed it to. He's a good right tackle, especially in the run game. But, I think falls short of where like Sewell and Darnell Wright is. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've gone over our top 10 offenses, but Theo, I would love to hear which offense or offenses we're really putting our money where our mouth is this season.
You're right. That is the theme of today's Dabble pick. I gotta say that this episode is brought to you by Dabble Fantasy. One of the reasons we've been enjoying Dabble as much as we have been is that it feels like more than just another DFS app. You can follow your friends or creators, and you can see what everyone's playing. So you can click on a game, and you're not alone in it. You can kind of see where, what other people are doing, which I enjoy. And you can interact with people before kickoff, although the chat room, the takes in there do make me want to gouge my eyes out. It's got a group chat feature separated by sports. So football and basketball and baseball and tennis are all, got their own chat room. We'll be posting our favorite NFL feature picks before the season starts, along with all our weekly entries throughout the year. Follow the Stay Hot Pod profile in the app. Copy our plays if you like them. Leave comments, and let's play every Sunday together. Download Dabble today. Use code STAYHOT, and when you play your first $5, you will get $10 in bonus cash. So what I did today, since we've been talking about the top offenses, there's some week 1 games where some of these top offenses are playing defenses that could be quite bad. So I decided to play Dak Prescott more than 1.5 passing touchdowns against the Giants, Joe Burrow more than 1.5 passing touchdowns versus Tampa Bay, and Caleb Williams more than 236.5 passing yards versus Carolina. So if these offenses are what we think they can be,
Interesting.
hopefully these quarterbacks can throw touchdowns and not get vultured away by running backs. That's that, because it should be pretty easy to score touchdowns versus Tampa Bay if you're the Bengals. You know what I mean?
It should be,
No trouble with that one.
unless, of course, we got a certain edge rusher goes crazy.
The Tampa Bay front four is very scary to me. I mean, I saw their little compilation versus the Jets in the joint practices, and man, their highlights in joint practices looked like they'll be unstoppable. In the
Looks like the arm length isn't going to matter that much for Bane.
It never was. It never was. Ruben Bain could definitely ruin a lot, but Amarius Mims, he's strapped too, and I think that Jamar Chase on Zion McCollum is going to be a mismatch. So
Yeah.
we're gonna let it ride.
Interesting. And then you're picking against Matt's Panthers there. That's a little
Just the yards.
disrespectful.
We're used to it.
I will say before we get out of here, I did really think about putting Philly in here because I do still like a lot of the guys that they have. I'm still a big Jalen Hurts guy. Saquon's obviously still a good running back. They have a pretty strong offensive line as well. And even without AJ Brown, like I think Devonta Smith is really strong, and I love the Mekhi Lemon pick. Like they've got a lot of good weapons, but even looking back at like some of their best years, 2022 and 2024, they really didn't rank that crazy high in a lot of these efficiency metrics.
They're hard to project too.
They
That's why
are.
I didn't have them, but they certainly have the talent for consideration. Jacksonville is the other team that I really thought about. I think their passing offense is probably going to be very good, but we'll see about the rushing and just the offensive line in general. But they have a really good case too.
Yes,
They
absolutely.
have them in San Francisco, I think, are my toughest cuts. Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence just doesn't have quite the same history as like the Lions or the Packers. And the offensive line and running back situation makes me think like that could dry up and they could become a little one-dimensional and a lot of pressure could be on Lawrence. But Liam Cohen with Lawrence with a bevy of weapons at their disposal has, I mean, we saw how last season ended. And we saw the last game against the Broncos when they really killed them. I mean, they've got a ton of upside. They were a very tough cut, them in San Francisco, and then I'd say Philly and the Chargers make up a top 14.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Matt said earlier, 13 or 14 teams that really stick out as having a shot to be top 10 offenses this year. And then I think about 5 or 6 that have a case to be made that they could really go for number one.
I thought some fringe that like the Colts and the Broncos are both kind of interesting to me as well.
Yeah.
And that's where I stopped my list of like consideration.
Broncos
Saints?
are interesting. Saints,
With Tyson already banged up, that really bums me out. If they stay perfectly healthy, we'll see how good the run game can get. It's still possible for sure. And maybe at the end of the season, their peak powers. Yeah.
The Saints surprised me when I was talking about contested catch teams. The Cowboys were third in the NFC. The Saints were fourth with 57. Olave did a great job last year, making some spectacular grabs. Him and Tyson still is has a chance to be maybe the third best receiver duo in the league. Offensive line is cool. I think they upgraded their running back room pretty substantially, going from Kamara to HN as their starter. They were on the fringe for me. Colts, though, more so warranting consideration. But there's a sneaky team that has a good run game and kind of can create splash plays off play action. The Saints seems.
Yeah.
I've thought for a while the Saints have a good formula to get there someday.
Someday, but the injuries at receiver really do concern me. It's something that has to fix itself at some point, and until that happens, it really does feel hard to project them to be one of these top offenses. The Colts are interesting for sure. Jonathan Taylor at any given year could be, the top back in football. The Daniel Jones stuff is really what you're watching, and just the quarterback room in general.
And the outside receiver play is totally up in the air too. And even then, the Jones stuff is like a very short sample that we saw of him really being nice. And they were at their best, so they were really, really good.
Yeah.
And maybe it's that Jones gets back to his old self, and losing Michael Pittman isn't like the end all be all for this offense.
I have been thinking that the Pittman stuff might not be the end of the world.
It's not great. It would have been nice to keep Pittman for sure.
Yeah.
But
It's a lot of targets to lose, and they don't really have someone in line. That's like, I guess, Downs.
It's going to be Downs and more Warren work is probably what they're going to be hoping.
That's the hope, but it's still a lot to lose that guy when, now you don't have to really worry about having two guys on each side that can really threaten you vertically. So, yeah, the Colts are another good shout, but I left out. Commanders could, if Daniels is back to like full form. But even if he gets back to that, you have to then worry, is he going to get hurt again?
No, Tunsil, I mean, is already hurt. I just worry.
Yes.
I worry that the offensive line and receivers are going to make it a rough situation for Daniels overall.
Yeah, I think I agree. It's going to be tough sledding there. But you've got our top 10s.
Seattle.
What's going to happen? Seattle. I don't.
Seattle kind of like snuck into the top 10 last year. They lost Kubiak, and that makes me nervous. But
yeah,
I like a lot of their young weapons. Any of them could take a step, so they're a good shout as well.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of recent talk that like Jadarian Price should be a better candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year, and we didn't mention him in our awards segment, and maybe we should have.
Well, especially since a lot of the talk is that they're going to be really serious about giving him the ball, and it's not going to be as much of a split. We'll see. But if that's the case, then I'm really excited because I think Price is a very talented runner.
Yeah, super talented. I mean, it's one of the heaviest run volume teams in the NFL last year, and he's kind of slated to take over that entire workload. It could be pretty huge. Yeah, he is really special. Very, very explosive. So I could see that. Plus, of course, they have JSN out there still, and Darnold is still playing good football. So I could see a world, but I do wonder if they're just not gonna quite have, like, they weren't this like super elite offense last year, right? So I don't know if they'll get better, because that's kind of what you'd be projecting here. So
yeah, there's not a lot of huge material upgrades to point to and say like, oh man, they're about to take this big leap. There's a couple teams, the Bears too. I feel like I look at them like, man, they lost their center and like, where's the growth coming from? Like, what are you infusing this with? They lost their OC. Maybe that doesn't matter because they have
the young players getting better.
Yeah, it's just the young players getting better, more consistency from Caleb. You're not really,
and the Packers too. I mean, the Packers also didn't really
exactly
add anything crazy.
Right.
Neither did the Lions. Neither did a lot of teams. It wasn't a big offseason for movement.
Thus, why the New England Patriots are going to be electric, and why Drake May is going to win MVP this year. But that'll do it for another episode of Stay Hot. Thank you all so much for tuning in. once again, make sure you wish Theo a happy birthday. It's a few days late, but we got around to it. And until next time,
my
we will
birthday
catch
all
you
month.
on.
All year.
Matt gets all of July, Theo gets all of August, and then I get the Super Bowl in all of February.
And you get the other
So,
days.
yeah, I get all the other days of the year. Yes, that's what they're saying. We'll catch you on the flippity flop.